Hi everybody, it is Sunday and I am here in my bedroom hiding from my crazy toddler, hanging out with my cat, obviously, who just came into the screen, who's now climbing on my back. It's like the closest thing I'm going to get to a back massage, probably, throughout all of quarantine. Right, Pigeon? Yeah? Totally engaged in this conversation. Anyway, I didn't come here today to show you my cat. I came here today to talk about what are you supposed to do with your boobs when your baby starts to sleep really long stretches at night, which is a question I have gotten asked in the past 2 threads when I posted asking for suggestions for live videos and what topic you wanted me to cover. So since it has come twice in a row, I decided I'm just going to answer it now. So let's talk about it. First of all, I want to address what does sleeping a long stretch mean and at what point is it appropriate for your baby to do so, because there are sometimes when waking your baby should happen and sometimes when it should not. And this is something that is highly debated amongst moms in breastfeeding groups, and so I just want to start by clarifying that, and then I'll talk about what to do about your milk supply, because depending on how old your baby is and what your circumstances are, your baby should or should not be sleeping long stretches at night. So let's start with addressing that first. So number one, what we consider sleeping through the night is a stretch of like 4 to 5 hours. That is technically sleeping through the night for a breastfed baby. Now, I'm not talking about like a much older baby, like closer to a year old or like after the 6-month mark. I'm talking about a younger baby who is solely reliant upon your breast milk. So a 4 to 5 hour stretch is what we consider sleeping through the night. By the way, we have a couple of blog posts regarding sleep and how to help your breastfed baby sleep a little bit better. So if your baby is not having these longer stretches at night and you're like just exhausted and overwhelmed and want to know how to support your baby to do so, head to successfulbreastfeeding.org/blog and take a look at the blog posts we have and listen to the podcast episode that we have about this topic, especially with our sleep consultant who we refer to. Her name is Elizabeth Vine. She's wonderful, and she came on and talked to me about all of her tips that she has for helping your baby sleep longer at night. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And if you have access to the vault, our vault of really awesome resources, she has some freebies in there inside of the vault, so go log in and grab that too if you are really struggling with sleep and need some more guidance and resources. I can post links in the comments for you as well. But anyway, so sleeping through the night, 4 to 5 hour stretch, and this is common even from the newborn stage. So if your baby is just born and everything is going well, your baby is gaining weight really well, breastfeeding is established well, you're not having pain, you're not having any issues, not having any jaundice or any other medical concerns, by all means let your baby sleep that 4 to 5 hour stretch. If your baby is less than like 8 weeks old and they're sleeping longer than 4 to 5 hour stretches, that is something that might be concerning to me, because that can mean that they may not be eating enough during the day. But if your baby is older than 6 to 8 weeks old and is sleeping longer than 4 to 5 hour stretches and still nursing at least 8 times every 24 hours, then consider yourself one of those unicorn people who has a breastfed baby that sleeps longer than that. It is not common, so if that is you are outside of the range of normal, and just enjoy it while it lasts. But as long as your baby is nursing at least 8 times every 24 hours and they are older than 6 to 8 weeks, if they're sleeping longer than that 4 to 5 hour stretch, it's okay. However, we need to be careful about milk supply, especially if your baby is younger than that, because if you are in your sensitive hormonal window, we call it, which is that first 6 weeks, and your baby is sleeping really long stretches at night, this could be detrimental to your milk supply. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that you break out a pump and start pumping. I can't really tell you what to do if you're in that scenario without really knowing, what's going on and getting a full picture, because there is no black or white way to handle it. And I definitely don't want to say just start pumping during this time, because then, as you guys know, you could induce an oversupply, and we don't recommend that. So if you're worried about it, ask questions, seek support to get more clarity on what you should do specifically, because there is no black and white answer. But if you do have a baby who is older than 6 to 8 weeks and sleeping a nice long stretch and you're feeling engorged, I can give you a more black and white response as long as your baby is still nursing adequately throughout the day, which means still getting at least 8 feedings in a 24-hour period. So if that is you and you meet all of those criteria and check all of those boxes, then what you can do at that point is allow your body to self-regulate. And it will. Your body will adjust. The way your breasts are feeling will adjust, and your milk supply will compensate to keep up with your baby's demand. The way you produce milk starts to change the older your baby gets, and your body will learn your baby's kind of routine, essentially. So when this first starts to happen, as our original poster knows, it can be uncomfortable, because before your body was used to your baby nursing frequently throughout the night, which is normal and important, because those nighttime feedings are essential for maintaining your milk supply. Especially those 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. feedings are crucial for milk production. But once your supply is well established and you're outside of that hormonal window, it's okay to let your body adjust and follow your baby's lead, again, as long as you meet all of the other criteria I mentioned before. And what you can do instead of pumping, which we don't recommend because we don't want you to induce an oversupply by telling your body to produce more milk, especially during these, crucial hours of the night where your hormones are going to be at their peak. We don't really recommend pumping before you go to bed, and we don't really recommend pumping when you first wake up either, unless you have to be away from your baby for some reason or you're starting to prepare to go back to work. So instead, what we recommend is allowing your body to regulate on its own, and if you need to relieve some pressure and engorgement, rely on gentle hand expression instead. And what I used to do when my body was trying to regulate in the middle of the night is I would keep a towel literally in my bed, and I would fold it in half and I would sleep on top of it. And in the middle of the night, when I'd roll over and could feel how heavy my breasts were, I would just hand express right into the towel that I was sleeping on top of, because I was really lazy and I did not want to get up, and my babies did not sleep that well. And so if I did have a moment where they were letting me get some precious sleep, there's no way I was getting up out of bed to go hand express. So I kept a towel literally in my bed, and I would hand express in the middle of the night in my bed with the towel, and then just roll over and go right back to sleep. So I was keeping my breasts comfortable, but letting them stay full enough that my body would get the message that it was time to slow things down just a little bit and regulate a little bit more. And then in the morning, my baby would wake up, my breasts would be full but not uncomfortable, I would not be engorged. And then what I would do is I would just make sure that I wasn't letting my baby get too much too fast in those morning feeds. Now, it probably took me 3 or 4 nights in a row of this super full, needing to hand express a little bit before my body really got the message. But if your baby is starting to sleep through the night regularly, that's really the best thing you can do, is just allow your body to regulate on its own. Don't add any extra complicated things in, like using the Haka. We don't recommend using the Haka regularly anyway, and we don't recommend pumping to relieve engorgement unless, like I said, if you're going back to work, pumping is a totally different thing. If you have to be away from your baby, that's a totally different thing. If you start pumping to try to combat this, what you're going to end up doing is getting yourself trapped in a situation where you're always going to have to pump to relieve that pressure. And you don't want to do that probably, because I have not met a single person yet in this journey of lactation support that just says, you know what, I love pumping, it's my favorite. Never met that person. If you know that person, send them my way, because I'd love to meet them, but I'm not sure that that person exists. So unless you want to get trapped in the snowball of always having to pump in the middle of the night, to relieve pressure and relieve engorgement. Just allow your body to self-regulate. Rely on hand expression instead. And enjoy the sleep stretch because you are a unicorn.